If you're struggling with arthritis and inflammation, then you will want to pay close attention to what we're about to tell you. You'll discover 7 key foods that could be causing your pain and what healthier alternatives you should eat instead. Because the reality is that there's a connection between our diet and inflammation caused by arthritis. As you know, arthritis can be an incredibly painful condition, and it can cause a lot of discomfort in our joints, making everyday activities difficult. That said, it's important to first know the different types of arthritis so you can have a better picture of its connection to diet. The first is gout, which is characterized by the accumulation of uric acid, mainly affects the joints of the ankles, big toe, and feet. Certain foods can actually contribute to the development of gout by promoting the formation of sharp crystals within the joints, which makes you feel like there are razor blades on your joints. The second type includes autoimmune diseases like lupus, rheumatoid arthritis, and psoriatic arthritis. In these conditions, the body mistakenly attacks itself. So, it's important to lower the levels of inflammatory cytokines to effectively fight and reduce the impact of these diseases on the body. Then, we have arthritis that's linked to diabetes. When your blood sugar levels go up, it can cause stiffness in your tendons. This, in turn, can trigger an autoimmune response and the formation of crystals in your joints. So, it's really important to keep an eye on your metabolism and be mindful of how much sugar you're consuming. Finally, we have osteoarthritis, which is the most common form of arthritis that happens when there's missing cartilage. It used to be thought that it's only caused by excess weight, which leads to joints rubbing and wearing out. But there are actually many metabolic factors at play in this condition. That said, making some simple dietary changes can make a huge difference in how your body responds to arthritis. In this video, we'll be talking about 7 common foods to avoid as well as healthier alternatives to consume if you want to decrease the discomfort that arthritis brings. Let's get started. Number 1. Processed trans fat-rich food. There was a time when everyone thought all trans fat was bad. But as it turns out, there are actually good and bad trans fats. In one study, researchers looked at how lean-cut meats and dairy affect the body. Surprisingly, they found that even though these foods contain trans fats, they're actually good fats. They don't have the same negative impact on our bodies as those processed trans fats. The ones we should watch out for are trans fats from hydrogenated foods because they're artificial and our bodies can't break them down. You'll find those processed trans fats in foods like microwavable popcorn, fried foods, fast foods, cakes, pastries, and cookies. What's more, eating too much of them can lead to a fatty diet, which increases the risk of metabolic syndrome. That means you could end up with diabetes, more fat around your waist, and increased inflammation in your body. Not to mention, you might experience symptoms of arthritis. So it's definitely something to keep in mind. Number 2. Seed oil and vegetable oil. Now, this might confuse you, so allow us to explain why they're on our list. Many experts have put together lists of oils, categorizing them as either good or bad. But there's no clear consensus on this. In fact, their opinions on which oils belong in each category often change. The prevailing idea is that most of the oils considered bad are those that are high in omega-6 fatty acids, and you've got your vegetable oil and seed oil in this group. While many people are familiar with omega-3 fatty acids, not as many know about omega-6 fatty acids. These are known to contribute to inflammation, including arthritis. Ideally, inflammation should happen because there's a balance of omega-3 and omega-6 in a 1-to-1 ratio. But here's the problem. The average diet, especially in the United States, has way more omega-6 than omega-3. We're talking a lopsided 25-to-1 ratio of omega-6 to omega-3. And this imbalance leads to too much inflammation in our bodies and not enough anti-inflammatory properties. Researchers have even looked into what happens when there's an imbalance between omega-3 and omega-6. In a study with rats, those with a 20-to-1 ratio of omega-6 to omega-3 had higher levels of inflammation markers, like C-reactive protein. And this translated to significantly higher cancer rates. Number 3. Processed meats. This category includes crowd favorites like bacon, jerkies, lunch meats, and smoked meats. The main concern why we have them on this list is the presence of advanced glycation end products, or AGEs. These compounds have been linked to inflammation in the body. See, studies have shown a connection between consuming processed meats and an increase in inflammatory markers, particularly pro-inflammatory cytokines that contribute to inflammation and arthritis. And you know what? Processed meats have also been associated with a higher risk of colon cancer. So, if you need another reason to avoid those foods, this is definitely one of them. Number 4. High fructose corn syrup. This syrup is basically a concentrated form of refined sugars, made up of 45% glucose and 55% fructose. It's created by breaking down pure simple sugars, resulting in a super sweet substance. Eating foods with high fructose corn syrup can cause an increase in inflammatory cytokines. What's more, a study done on mice that were given high fructose diets showed that these mice had alarmingly high cancer rates compared to normal. Plus, researchers found that consuming high fructose corn syrup also greatly reduced anti-inflammatory markers in the body. In fact, those markers dropped really low. You'll often find high fructose corn syrup in the Western diet, sneaking into all kinds of indulgent treats like donuts, cupcakes, cheap cereals, cookies, and sodas. One of these even deserves its own spot on our list. Quick pause. If you're finding value here, hit subscribe and comment, "I subscribed," and we'll personally reply to thank you. Number 5. Sodas. This beverage is basically like a more drinkable version of high fructose corn syrup. Now, in a clinical trial where they compared the effects of drinking soda, milk, and water, researchers found out that sodas do have some pretty bad effects on our health. For instance, the high fructose corn syrup in sodas can contribute to all sorts of health issues, like arthritis, insulin problems, obesity, diabetes, cancer, fatty liver, and chronic diseases. If you're thinking that diet sodas might be a healthier alternative, think again. It's true that diet sodas are a little better than the sugary ones, but they still can cause harm to our bodies. So, if you're dealing with arthritis, it's really best to avoid sodas, diet or not. Number 6. Processed carbs. You know, foods that are high in sugar are considered to have a high glycemic index. This basically means they can have a negative impact on our blood sugar levels. Take donuts, for example. These sweet treats are notorious for being loaded with sugar and rank pretty high on the glycemic index scale. On the other hand, avocados are a different story. They're a versatile and nutritious fruit that's packed with fiber and has low levels of simple sugars. This means they have a lower ranking on the glycemic index. Now, you might be wondering why all of this matters. Well, when it comes to our dietary choices, it's a good idea to go for carbs that are rich in fiber rather than refined sugar or processed carbs. Processed carbs often have a ton of sugar in them, which can lead to high sugar levels and potentially increase the risk of conditions like diabetes. Plus, high blood sugar levels can cause stiffness in our tendons, putting extra pressure on our joints and making us uncomfortable. And that's not all. Processed carbs that have more sugar than fiber can also contribute to other health issues like hemorrhoids. So, by embracing a diet that stays away from processed carbs, we can reduce the potential risks that come with consuming too much sugar. It might even help with conditions like arthritis. Number 7. Alcoholic drinks. So, alcohol is actually both good and bad. You know, there have been some studies suggesting that moderate wine consumption can actually be good for your health. It's even said to be beneficial when part of the Mediterranean diet. To enjoy those benefits, experts generally recommend sticking to 2 glasses a day for women, while men can go up to 3 glasses. Now, here's the flip side. If you go overboard with alcohol, it can increase inflammation in your body. And as you now know, this can have a negative impact on your joints and overall joint health. And get this, excessive alcohol can mess with your gut, too. It can lead to a condition called leaky gut, where essential nutrients aren't properly absorbed. That's a problem because those nutrients are needed to fight off inflammation. So not only does excessive alcohol promote inflammation, but it also messes with your ability to absorb the good stuff that fights inflammation, including arthritis. Now that you know which foods to avoid when dealing with arthritis, let's explore the ones that can really benefit you. To start, it's highly recommended to incorporate omega-3 rich foods like salmon and other freshwater fish into your diet. This way, you can achieve a 1-to-1 ratio of omega-6 and omega-3, which, as we mentioned earlier, can really help in dealing with arthritis. Vegetables are also a great choice for this, although they have lower concentrations of omega-3. Now, when it comes to supplements said to contain this particular fatty acid, We don't really recommend them since they generally have low levels of omega-3. Indian spices like turmeric and curcumin are also excellent for addressing arthritis. Multiple studies have shown that they can effectively reduce inflammation in the joints. In fact, they offer even more benefits than supplements said to address arthritis. And don't forget to enjoy a cup of green tea. Research consistently highlights its positive impact on relieving joint pain. So, feel free to indulge in a cup of green tea. Also, do you experience arthritis in your feet and legs? If so, then let's explore some miracle foods that boost blood flow to legs and feet. Click on this video now to find out.